Итак, видео будет... Видео по притче о пустыне будет. Просто мне надо доделать кое-какую РМ по стэнли парабл ультра делюкс, связанную с моей игрой. Ну, сюжетом моей игры. Когда игра будет готова, я пропиарю ее на сервере Cross. Кто не знает, это студия, которая создала ультра делюкс, вот. Еще сниму видео, полный разбор моей игры, когда она выйдет. Вот. Вообще, это видео будет работой над ошибками, потому что прошлое видео я записывал полусонным и не говорил как нормальный человек. Так что эта версия будет лучше, но, конечно, мы пропустим сиквелы все объекты, потому что, ну, вы сами можете все-таки поиграть в игру, а тут у меня философский разбор. Вот. Так что такое видео, всем приятного просмотра. Стэнли пэрэбл ультра делюкс — это не просто ремастер, а мета-комментарий на игровую индустрию, концепцию сиквелов и нелинейного повествования. Эта игра — зеркальное отражение ожиданий игрока, его взаимодействия с игрой и самим актом создания контента. Мы рассмотрим, как ультра делюкс расширяет идеи оригинала и что оно говорит о природе повествования в играх. Также взглянем на философский смысл игры.
This is the story of a man named Stanley. Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427. Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on a keyboard. Orders came to him through a monitor on his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how long to push them, and in what order. This is what employee 427 did every day of every month of every year. And although others might have considered it soul-rending, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly for this job. And Stanley was happy. And then one day, something very peculiar happened. Something that would forever change Stanley. Something he would never quite forget. He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one single order had arrived on the monitor for him to follow. No one had showed up to give him instructions, call a meeting, or even say hi. Never in all his years at the company had this happened, this complete isolation. Something was very clearly wrong. Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and stepped out of his office.
Начинаем мы, звери.
Oh, new content? What does that mean, new content?
Когда разработчики с энтузиазмом ведут нас в новое пространство, они обещают что-то невероятное.
The Stanley Parable was a video game released in 2013 on home computers. After receiving critical and commercial success, it was expanded upon in 2022 with the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, a reimagining of the game for consoles and home computers. The Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe features exciting new content that broadens and expands the world of the Stanley Parable, delighting audiences the world over. Please, step inside and see what thrilling new adventures await in the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe.
Oh, well, this sounds delightful. I'm very excited to see the thrilling new Ultra Deluxe content. Okay, so far it's an elevator. Nothing special yet, but I'm sure it's just the beginning of a mesmerizing adventure. What's going on here? Should we be moving somewhere? Oh, there we go. All right, finally, at long last, it's on to the new content. I've never been more ready. Let's do it. I have to say, initial impressions of Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, mostly tedious. It's as if, oh, okay. Let's see the content. Give me the content, Stanley. All right, let's see. It's the jump circle.
Мы ожидаем чего-то грандиозного, но получаем круг прыжков. Механика, которая кажется бессмысленной.
Is that it? Surely that's not all the new content. There has to be something else, right? Goodness, another elevator. Stanley, I have to say, initial impressions of this game are not positive. It's just elevators and jumping. Is this what passes for exciting new content? If this is new content, then I could just read you the whole dictionary. There's 20 hours of new content right there. Hell, I could count to 30 trillion. You could put that on the box. The Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, now with over 1,000 hours of new content. And oh wait, there's more. Very good. Yes, I knew there had to be something else. Let's see it. I'm ready for whatever it is.
И затем пустую сцену с надписью «Спасибо, что насладились новым контентом». Разочарование игрока. Обман ожиданий работает как часть сатиры на игровую индустрию, где контент зачастую оказывается лишь маркетинговым ходом.
That's gone into it. In fact, I'm looking right now at the game's achievements, and it's hard to believe one of them actually says, "Test achievement, please ignore." What quality assurance department signed off on this? I'm infuriated and I'm offended, and I intend to find these people on Twitter and hold them personally accountable. It's my fault, Stanley. I built up too much anticipation around the new content, I'm afraid. It could never have lived up to such expectations. If you're still with me, why don't we just reset the game, and we'll try to get back to what the Stanley Parable is really about. No frills, no gimmicks. Just you and me having a great time together like always. What do you say, friend?
Философский этот момент поднимает вопрос. А что такое новый контент? Сколько инноваций требуется, чтобы игра оказалась новой? Может ли контент быть новым, если он искусственно создает иллюзию новизны?
Stanley, come over here. In the vent. I want to show you something.
Концовка, кнопка пропуска.
Okay, you remember how cheap and unsatisfying the new Ultra Deluxe content turned out to be? Well, it got me thinking about the past and how much better the Stanley Parable used to be. So I made something special and tucked it away here where the game's developers won't find it. Just our little secret. Take a look. I call it the Memory Zone. It's where I've been storing all my favorite memories so I can relive the peak experiences of my life whenever I want. Experiences like the launch of the Stanley Parable on PC.
Это концовка, мрачное размышление о потере времени и сознательного опыта. Наратор ведет нас в зону памяти, пытаясь удержать воспоминания о прошлом.
You see, Stanley, doesn't the Memory Zone remind you of how wonderful Stanley Parable was before it was sullied with a cheap re-release? Remember back in October of 2013, when the game originally launched? Back then, video games had integrity. Back then, it all meant something. Oh, the waste.
Он показывает, как люди любят оглядываться назад, забывая, что прошлое неизбежно искажено ностальгией.
Je suis dans la mémorisation, seul sur la pluie des loups, et je n'attends plus que toi, mon amour. C'est là, dans la mémorisation, où je me remémore les jours.
And over here is where I keep reviews of the Stanley Parable. Like this stunning triumph of games journalism, 10 out of 10 from Destructoid.com. James Stephanie Sterling writes, and I quote, "Where so many games that aspire to be more than games end up less than any form of art, Stanley Parable strives and then succeeds to be every game ever created." Did you hear that, Stanley? Every game ever created. That's how grand and all-encompassing the original Stanley Parable was. It was literally every game ever created. It was Skyrim, it was Persona 3, it was all of them, and now it's nothing. It's no games at all. It isn't even the Stanley Parable anymore. It's just a husk now. A lifeless husk with an hour of new elevator content. Here's another moving passage, this time from GameSpot.com. The Stanley Parable is both a richly stimulating commentary on the nature of choice in games and one that offers some of the most enjoyable, surprising, and rewarding choices I've ever been confronted with in a game. 9 out of 10. Don't you get it, Stanley? The game was perfect. It didn't need anything else. It didn't need new content. It just needed to be left alone, to spend the rest of time collecting dust in the hallowed hall of beloved video game memories. These were simpler times, Stanley. But I wouldn't give to go back, to have it all over again. Wait, hang on.
Все рушится, когда мы видим отрицательные отзывы.
Oh, God, no! Stanley, it's a collection of reviews from Steam, the online video game distributor. I haven't looked at these in years. I can't even imagine what's been collecting down here. Surely these reviews were glowing as well, weren't they? Honestly, I could not be bothered to play this game to full completion. The narrator is obnoxious and unfunny, with his humor and dialogue proving to be more irritating than entertaining. Unfunny? I'm not trying to be funny. I'm trying to make a serious work of art. I suppose I could write up a handful of gags to insert into the Stanley Parable, but the game is already such a densely layered web of profound philosophical insights that I can't even imagine where I'd have the room to stick them. Okay, let's see what this one says. While the idea for the game is good, for someone who prefers non-linear games, this preachiness gets annoying fast. Preachy? Stanley? I'm not preachy, am I? You can tell me if I'm preachy. Honestly, you can. Oh, goodness. This is actually quite shocking for me. I always, well, to be honest, I had always thought of the game's dialogue as being rather terse to begin with. You can't know how much fluff I cut from the game to get it to feel as light and airy as it... Well, I always thought it did. But maybe it wasn't. Oh dear. What an awful memory to have to hold on to. These black marks on my otherwise unimpeachable track record. I feel like a failure. Like I let these people down. Perhaps the Stanley parable isn't quite as sterling as I always remembered. What's this one got to say? You constantly have to stop doing anything so the narrator can catch up with his long-winded explanations of what's happening. I wish there was a skip button. A skip button? Well, yes. Yes, I think we can do that. If I'm truly too preachy, then maybe letting you skip ahead for just a moment, surely it couldn't hurt. Not if it means we can strike these negative reviews from the record. Only positive reviews of the Stanley parable. That's my motto today, and it's always been my motto. I'd do anything for the customer, Stanley. Yes, a skip button we shall have.
Один из них требует кнопку пропуск. Мы нажимаем на кнопку. Сначала это кажется безобидным. Всего несколько минут. Зачем тебе часы, дни, годы? Наратор постепенно теряет рассудок, погружаясь в пустоту.
And here it is. Go ahead and give it a shot. Oh, you're back, you see. You were only frozen in time for a few minutes, but it was plenty of time for me to deliver a long, rambling monologue full of unnecessary verbal flourishes and lengthy ruminations on the nature of choice in video games. Of course, I happen to believe it was... Well there, sport. You really did catch me rambling on a bit, didn't you? But that's the power of the button. The minute I start to go off on a thoughtless display of self-absorption, it's right at your fingertips to go poof, and it's all over. Boom. Okay, welcome back, Stanley. Now, I should say that the amount of time the button has been skipping through is becoming longer and longer. That last one was, well, I want to say maybe 30, 45 minutes? Stanley, please don't push the button again. It's been 12 hours. You've just been frozen there. I don't know why the skips are getting longer, but they're really, truly getting longer, and my God, there's no way out of the room. Stanley, the door is gone. It's completely gone. I've looked at it from... Oh, Stanley, you're back. You're back. Oh, my goodness. I have someone to talk to again. Stanley, I think it's been a week. Or 2 weeks. I've been sitting here all that time, just sitting here, not a single person to speak with. And you'd think that that's just how it's always been, right? Me too. Oh, hello, it's you. You're here again. Welcome. I have had time to think about you and about us and about everything we've been through. I've had so much time, I stopped keeping track after a year. Have you ever sat down in one place and not moved for one in... But they didn't understand the game was never meant to be funny. It was meant to have a point. It was meant to speak to the human condition. But where are the jokes? Where are the jokes? They bemoaned, they screamed, they gnashed their teeth and said, entertain us. It wasn't enough. They had to leave a pathetic little thumbs-down review and make all of their pit... the end is never 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 the end.
Пока комната разрушается, и остается только бескрайняя пустыня. Символично, что игрок, который стремился ускорить процесс, в итоге остался без него. Он пропустил не только монологи наратора, он пропустил саму жизнь. Также тема пустыни и сама игра за стэнли парабл ультра делюкс, мою недооцененную философскую работу «Притча о пустыне». Это фан-игра по стэнли парабл ультра делюкс. Но это разговор для следующего видео. Игра говорит: мы можем так увлечься сокращением пути, оптимизацией процесса, что в итоге останемся в пустоте. Ведь если удалить все лишнее, что останется? Без ожидания, без переживаний, без смысла. Только чушь.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. Oh, good. You noticed my sign. Yes, I have something very exciting to show you. You see, Stanley, I've been reflecting on the Stanley parable and about how roundly disappointing this ultra deluxe version has turned out to be. The original Stanley parable was a landmark. and any new content for it should live up to that legacy. So forget this ultra deluxe nonsense. I say we take it one step even further. Which is why I'm very proud to announce for the first time ever the Stanley Parable 2.
Оратор попытки оправдать существование ультра делюкс создает за стэнли пэрэбл 2. Он строит выставку, выполняя ее бессмысленными механиками.
An entirely new experience, built from the ground up. Why, there are so many possibilities. It could go in so many different directions. This is what fans have truly been asking for. Calling it the Stanley Parable 2 is just so much catchier than Ultra Deluxe, don't you think? Ultra Deluxe? What does it even mean? But the Stanley Parable 2, now that's an artistic statement right there. It's future-oriented. It screams progress and innovation and long-term franchising potential. Now, to be clear, I haven't quite nailed down what exactly the Stanley Parable 2 is going to be, but let's take a look at some of the features I've been developing for it. I figure that if I can loosely organize a handful of interesting concepts, that surely the game will sort of naturally spring up around them. It'll all work itself out. Game development is much more of a fuzzy magic than anything scientific or logical, really. Here we are. Go on, try out some of the new features.
Маслинфинный холл и прочими элементами, но не добавляющими реальной глубины. Как это момент он осознает, что не может придумать ничего действительно нового, а лишь использует старые механики с новой оболочкой. Этот момент отражает индустрию игр, где продолжения зачастую представляют собой коммерческий продукт, а не творческое высказывание. Наратор сдается и просто интегрирует сиквел в оригинал, фактически подтверждая, что нового контента нет и не будет. Философский смысл этой концовки в том, что, возможно, новое вообще невозможно. Мы привыкли ждать изменений, но реальный прогресс — это не просто изменение в форме, а осмысление и переосмысление содержания. Может ли быть что-то действительно новое? Или все уже создано, мы лишь пересобираем прошлое?
You found me out, Stanley. I'm a liar and a cheat, and you're so clever. Look, I think the issue here is just that you're unusually fascinated by falling. What normal person actually wants to fall infinitely? I figured the hole was as deep as anyone would actually need. Don't you put this on me. Maybe you're the problem. Look, things got a little heated there. I think we both said some things we didn't mean. Why don't we just put all this behind us and agree to just call the whole mostly infinite? If that works for you, then go ahead and press the teleport button to warp up to the top of the hole and we can move on. I'll just be up here when you're ready. Great. Now, I'm very... Oh, for heaven... You see, I was right. The problem is you. The problem is that you like holes too much. Not normal. A normal person would have said, yep, that's an infinite hole right there, goes on forever till the end of time. Don't need to see it all, but not you. Oh, no, 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 no. You have a weird sort of... Oh. Did the hole seem even shorter to you this time? I couldn't help but feel like you spent a little less time in there than you did before. I mean, admittedly, I didn't make an infinite hole, but I didn't think it was that not infinite. Well, I suppose once again there's nothing to do here. If you decide you've had enough of the hole, you can hit the teleport button and come join me up above. Had enough? I'm positively thrilled. I really do have... Gosh, how could I have guessed? You're back in the hole. If this starts to become a thing where... Wow. Okay. Yes. I'm starting to become extremely certain that the hole is not only not infinite, but that it's growing steadily less and less infinite. I suspect that I'm starting to... Oh, there it is. The shame of... How is this still appealing to you? I know you're obsessed with holes, but at this depth, I just can't see this scratching the itch. Oh, who am I to judge? You just do whatever it is you're here to do and hit the teleport button when you're ready to move on. Is the, teleport button not working? You sure? Well, I mean, I really don't have an explanation. It was working just a moment ago. Try it again. Still nothing? Well, I suppose there is one thing I can do to fix this. I'm out. Goodbye, Stanley. You couldn't bear to be away from the hole, and now you'll get more time with it than you could ever have asked for. It's a win for everyone. You get to be with the hole, I get to do literally anything else. Take care, Stanley. I hope you and the hole have a wonderful... you had sort of dozed off there, drifting away into dreamland. But we can't have that, Stanley, because this hole is just so darn fascinating that I want you to be wide awake for every second of it. You don't want to miss a single moment. So how about if I just pop in from time to time and wake you up to keep you really, truly focused on the hole? From the looks of things, you and I will have many, many years here in this hole, and I'm looking forward to all of them. Stay alert, Stanley. I'll be back. Toodle-pip. You found one of them. One of the miniature Stanley figurines. Remember, no reward for collecting all of these, only the intrinsic pleasure of a job well done. You can't buy that sort of happiness, Stanley. God knows I've tried. So, I implore you to savor each and every moment you come across one of these beautiful figurines.
Одержимость наратора фигурками – это аллергия на стремление удержать прошлое. Мы собираем их, а затем повторяем этот процесс снова и снова.
The moment he entered his manager's office, Stanley froze in his tracks. Not a living... Another miniature Stanley figurine. There's, there really must be a snappier name for these things. What about mini-stands? Stanley figs? Or what about Stanlerines? Yes, I think I like that. Another Stanlerine under your belt. Just a step through this door, Stanley thought to himself. That's all I need. If I can make it through this door, I can make it through them all. Maybe Stanley would never pick up the bucket. Lonely bucket, lonely... When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, this was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. Ah, yes, truly a room worth admiring, but eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't 5 years ago. Okay, I'm getting back to the name of these little Stanley figurines, and now I'm torn between Stanlerines and Figlets. What do you think, Stanley? What name better encapsulates the intrinsic sense of happiness that you get from seeing a small number in the corner of your screen go up by 1? Let me sit on it. I'm sure it will come to me. All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. Stanley, pick up the bucket. Stanley picked up the bucket. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left. Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office. Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stuck. All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, he entered the door on his left. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office. You're getting close now, Stanley. You've nearly gotten all of the figure Anarines. Very soon, you'll collect the last one, and then the first number will equal the second number, and that will be it. We'll be different people by then. Different in the sense that we used to have none of them, and now we have them all. You can't go back to when you had no figure Anarines. None of us can. When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, this was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. Wow, yes, this room. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't 5 years ago. Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this time. There's someone you've been neglecting, Stanley. Someone... What? Really? I was in the middle of something. Do you have zero consideration for others? Are you that convinced that I want something bad to happen to you? Why, I don't know how to convince you of this, but I really do want to help you, to show you something beautiful. Let me prove it. Let me prove that I'm on yours. And there it is. The last Stiggly Wiggly. Savor this moment, Stanley. This is a real accomplishment. This is doing something just for the sake of doing it. Where so many people expect to be rewarded for the most trivial achievements, you've insisted that a job well done is its own reward. I would tell you that I'm proud of you for collecting them all, but that would be like a reward, and we can't have that. So, instead I'll just say, it's done. We're all done here. And now we can go to whatever the hell you were doing before you hunted for figurines. Oh, please. Are you really just doing this for the achievement? Stanley, I'm sorry, but I have to put a pause on things. It's those figurines. Those figglers. I haven't stopped thinking about them since you nabbed every last one. Wasn't it just the most intrinsically fulfilling moment of your entire life? Didn't it fill you to the brim with inner richness? Yes, I know we're supposed to be telling a story, but won't you please indulge me with one more trip back to the memory zone? I would love nothing more than to revisit the figurines. Just one more time. Here's where it all began. The first collectible. Back then, we had no idea of how many of them we'd find. Sure, it said 6 right there on the screen, but how could we know for certain? We were so innocent. We'll never be like that again, Stanley. And here was a second Stanlerine. I'll be honest, back then I had no faith in you to find any of them, let alone 6. But you continue to surprise me in all sorts of mundane, unremarkable ways. Okay, let's do a little quiz. Which of these rooms was the room you found your third mini Stan? Can you remember? Hey, that's exactly right. It was here, behind the boss's office. It was the third one. You picked it up, and then after that, you had 3 of them. I'm glad these moments are so crystal clear in your memory, but I shouldn't be surprised. After all, science tells us that it's impossible to forget your third time doing anything. Let's see, what came next? Oh yes, we found a Figley in this pink room. Oh well, I can't actually say I remember being in this room, but it's here in the memory zone, so it must have happened. This was the 5th mini Stan, and this one was really something special. It was in the boss's bathroom. I remember it so clearly. In fact, because this one is particularly special to me, I made a little video to commemorate the occasion. Enjoy. Takes you back, doesn't it? I spent a lot of time making that video, but it was 8 minutes I wouldn't have spent on anything else. And then, Stanley, then we came to the last collectible, the final figurine, right here by the red and blue doors. This memory is the most distinct and clear in my mind, perhaps because it was the one that happened more recently than all the others. Who can truly say how the mind works? All I know is that this is the moment where you picked up a Figly and I thought to myself, yes, that's all of them. They're all collected. It was a moment unlike any other. Except for the other moments picking up figurines, which it was exactly like. And then there was no more, because we've caught up to the present moment. Nothing left to do but move onward into the future. Goodbye, memory zone. No, I'm not done. I'm not ready to move on. Stop the loading screen. Isn't there some way we can stay here, keep enjoying these figurines? Let's just go backwards. We'll do the memory zone again from the opposite direction. See how that feels. Okay, yes, the room with the red and blue doors. I remember this. I must say, of all the figurines we looked at in our initial tour of the memory zone, this one is the most distinct and clear in my mind. Let's keep going, I want more. And here's where I made that video. Don't you remember the video we watched? Yes, I love that video. Still don't remember the pink room, Stanley. Still no memory of this one. Good room, though. A solid room. These really were a treat to hunt down. You know, if there had been any kind of reward for finding all of these, it really would have muted the intrinsic joy of collecting them. I'm very glad we resisted the temptation. Next one. our second Figley. Don't you remember? Yes, I remember it too. The past is truly a wonderful thing. Why does anyone ever choose to leave it? Keep going. This is it, the very first one we found in the exhibit where I introduced you to the figlarines. Oh, I want more memories, Stanley. I want to keep going. What else is there? What came before this? Look, it's the terrible new content that we were originally sold on. I remember hating it back then, but time does put a rosy filter on everything. In fact, I dare say I'm actually quite fond of it now. Look how much fun the past is. I want more. Oh, yes, the two doors. Who could have forgotten that? A classic memory, this one. And before everything else, there was your office. Is there anything else? Was there something that came before your office? There's something I feel I can remember. I can remember. Yes, I'm remembering something now. I remember before this whole story got started. Back then I was different. I used to make big decisions. I was passionate. I was skeptical. I weighed each decision with profound thoughtfulness. And then somewhere along the way, I stopped making decisions. I became lazy, and I came up with a character named Stanley to do my thinking for me. He would make the decisions. He would decide which way to go. I would cheer him on as he collected figurines for no reason. Why did I invent Stanley? Was I lonely? Yes, perhaps that's it. Perhaps I needed to imagine I had companionship. And Stanley really did make for a wonderful companion, even if he...
В конце наратор признает, что создал Стэнли лишь для того, чтобы не принимать решения самостоятельно. Он устал быть наратором, устал искать смысл. И теперь он не хочет отпускать воспоминания. Но финальная сцена показывает, что цикл не может длиться вечно. Наратор остается в зоне памяти, в ловушке своих воспоминаний, и игрок выходит за ее пределы, в пустоту. Этот момент напоминает, что сцепление за прошлое мешает движению вперед. Фигурки — это символ воспоминаний, которые мы пытаемся зафиксировать, но которые с каждым повторением теряют свой персональный смысл. Возможно, важнее не собирать прошлое, а учиться оставлять его позади.
Is the story of a man named Stanley.
Так, дальше идут диалоги с settings person, но я не успею вообще рассказать в этом видео про него, но он вообще не важен в этом видео, он только важен в эпилоге и все. Вот, но я, наверное, сделаю про него отдельное видео вообще, кто он такой. Вот. Но просто я вот ставлю диалоги, они связаны с эпилогом, и это вообще очень интересно, что он у нас спрашивает. Вот, так что давайте. Эпилог. Эпилог – кульминация всех тем игры. Каждая фаза этого путешествия – новый этап осознания. Первое. Дневной свет пустыни, начало пути, осознание одиночества. Второе. Закат. Неизбежность конца, угасание надежд. Третье. Песчаная буря. Хаос и потеря ориентира. Разрушение реальности. Четвертая ночь. Полное погружение в неизвестность. Восход. Иллюзия нового начала или бесконечного цикла. Затем игрок находит разрушенную зону памяти.
Jim. Stanley. Jim. Stanley. Stanley.
И встречает настройщика, который предлагает ему продолжать создавать сиквелы до бесконечности. Это последний комментарий игры. Стоит ли франшизе существовать вечно? Или лучше оставить ее завершенной? Финальный выбор – это выбор игрока, но является ли он реальным? Или нас просто ведут по заранее спроектированному пути? Может быть, вся наша жизнь – это очередной бесконечный сиквел. И в конечном итоге мы сами должны решить, стоит ли его продолжать. Так, ну и что ж, вот ED5XZ после монтажа. Что я могу сказать? Видео монтировал долго и сценарий писал долго, несколько дней. Записать я не мог месяц, да, целый. Ну как, сначала я 2 недели отдохнул, потом, ну, хотел записать, но... не знал, как сделать. И решил все-таки сделать полную работу над ошибками и все-таки уже записать реальный разбор за Стэнли пэрэбл ультра делюкс. Вот. Чтобы люди увидели философский смысл. Они думают, ну блин, ну игра вот. Она высмеивает игровую индустрию, все. Нет. Как по мне, она задает много философских вопросов и отвечает же на них. Ну, так что вот. Очень интересная игра. Буду делать контент по ней. Ну, может быть, там буду записывать какой-нибудь другой. Если я вам интересен как человек, могу записывать там что-нибудь другое. Но я вам не интересен как человек, я вам вообще не интересен. Потому что никто не подписывается особо, вот. Так что давайте, пока, всем удачи, желаю вам удачи. Я пошел рендерить это ебучее видео. Я, наверное, его не смогу, блять, отрендерить, потому что 1050 ебаная. Блять, ебаный Sony Vegas. Обратной совместимости вообще нету. Вот, так что, ну ебать. Похуй. Отрендеры хоть в 12 FPS все равно все посмотрят. Потому что это гениальное видео. Вот. После этого сделаю превью и пойду в Resident Evil 7 играть. Все, короче. Пока.